Welcome back to the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. My name is Chris, and today is episode 31, where I'll be interviewing Elvira Dibrigit, author of Why We Farm. But before we get into the interview, I'd like to remind you about our website at www.havenhomestead.com, where you can find out about all the things that we have going on here, including our 3-day workshop that's coming up next month in October. Registration ends at the end of September, and we only have 10 spots available. Please get on that quickly, and the price has just been reduced to $350. That includes room and board and the classes and some swag and everything else that comes with that. So get on that quick so we can learn and grow together. Also, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/havenhomestead so we can keep the show going and delivering quality podcasts to you and free us up to get to give even more media in videos and books and everything else that we're trying to create here to help you and us all live more sustainable lives. Before we get into the actual interview, I just want to remind you that warn you, I guess, rather, that this is my first Skype interview, so the audio is not optimal, but we're working on that and getting more and more editing skills so the show can be better and better every time. So without further ado, Elvira, welcome to the Haven Homestead Podcast.
Thanks. Yeah, be here. I'm really into homesteading myself, so I just enjoyed finding out about your podcast.
Right on. Thanks. Well, what we really try to accomplish here is, and this isn't just an elevator speech, but we really just try to help people help other people, or help people ourselves through our classes and everything. And I see that you're trying to do the same thing by writing a book about the farmers' stories of growing their food and sustaining their businesses. So you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, well, you really hit the nail on the head that the impetus for writing it was really to help the community where I live, which is predominantly small family farmers and a lot of organic farmers. And it kind of started out as just my own curiosity about how they made a living and why they were working so hard. And then as I got into this project, I really realized that there was a message that needed to be spread about why people need to support small family farmers and how we can do that.
So this is in the Capay Valley, you said?
That's right.
And all these farms reside in this valley?
Right. So Capay Valley is a really small valley, maybe 25 miles long, and it's just east of Napa Valley, but it's before you hit the big Central Valley. Most of our weather is like the Central Valley, very hot and dry in the summer.
And you featured 15 different farms on here, so there's got to be, some land to have 15 different farms in this one valley that you featured. That might not even be all the farms there are, but one I saw here was 500 acres.
That's right. Yeah, there are definitely, a few good land holdings. Most of them are under 500, and there's a few that are over 1,000. So It's not too small.
Yeah, and one person I really like. So one of the ones you talk about is the Cache Creek Lavender Farm. We won't go into all the farms, but one is the Cache Creek Lavender Farm, and they just have an acre.
Yeah, it's a really neat model of farming. And in my book, I try to feature a different model for every chapter. So so that's why there are farms that I did not include in the book, because they're maybe too similar. But Cache Creek Lavender, he has just 1 acre of lavender under cultivation, and then he produces a lot of different products, and he sells lavender as dried lavender, or like as wands or sachets. But then he also buys lavender oil, because of course you need acres and acres in order to distill it down to the essential oil.
Right.
And so he makes products with oil that he buys also. It's a great model for making value-added products. He's put it out just selling lavender cut, put in a bucket and brought to market as fresh cut lavender.
Yeah. So it started with just a couple of buckets, and then went to a bunch of buckets, and then by then he had a whole truck full of buckets. That's just
right. Exactly.
It's really neat how he could scale, because that's one of the when you start a business, you need to be able to scale so that if you do get the clientele, that you can still keep them all happy.
Right. Yeah. That is a big trick.
I also like that you, in your book, at the shotgun approach to all these different farms, getting a little bit from different farms, is that it's a polyculture, like how we're not supposed to, you're not supposed to, if you want to have a healthy farm, you don't just raise one crop, because then if a disease comes in, you can ask the Irish about that in the 1800s, how well that worked out for them. You have one crop of one thing, you get a disease, everything's knocked out. But same with anything you do, really being diversified, especially in your business model. You have in your book stories, it keeps the interest, and they're written in an interesting way, nice little vignettes and everything like this.
Yeah, most of the farms here do have like a diversified, offerings, but there are a few, like I have a vineyard and a olive orchard that are just doing monocrop, but they're surrounded by these other crops. So that's kind of one, I think, unique thing about being in a smaller valley, is that the big agricultural companies couldn't really take hold and turn it all into one crop. Although I guess in the past this valley was mostly almonds and stone fruit, and it's changed a lot.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's a big industry anyways, and the Monsantos of the world, they're just trying to buy up and take over, and it's really shutting the small family farm like we have here. Of course, we're just the homestead. We don't have anything that they have that they want to get their grips on just yet, but the farms around, the Tyson chicken farms and stuff like that, they're constantly looking for places to grow into, and little valleys like this are a treasure of the American past, like the history of what America used to be like. And you mentioned in your book that there's fewer farmers now than what were the numbers there?
Yeah, probably than there ever has been.
Yeah.
It's really gone down. What does it say? It says nationally there are 2.1 million farms in 2012, compared with 7 million in 1935.
Oh yeah.
So we've lost like 5 million farms since then. Of course, a lot has happened since then, but but the biggest thing that's happened is that farms have gotten bigger and less of them. So there's also the issue of farming population really aging right now. The average farmer is 60 retire, and there's there's not a lot of new farmers coming in.
Yeah, that's true. So we have a little bed and breakfast here. I was kind of talking with my wife about this, about your book earlier before we started the interview, and she was just mentioning that there's so much fewer farms, but they're so bigger now. And I said, well, you think about and all the people that have come to stay here have different, teachers and different jobs throughout, but not one that I can think of has been a farmer. There have been several software developers, but isn't that interesting? There's been several software developers, but not a single person that is even in agriculture that I know of in any way. So I think that's kind of interesting.
It's like 3% of our population, I think, that thinks of themselves as a farmer for a living. Yeah, they also don't probably get out and travel as much.
Yeah, they kind of have responsibilities closer to home. That's a good point. You can't telecommute with your tractor.
Oh wow, they're getting some fancy equipment these days, though, on the big farms.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's another topic.
So, do you farm yourself?
Yeah, I do. Well, my husband does most of it, and we have a large homestead garden for ourselves for vegetables and fruits. We have about 30 different fruit trees, and we're on just under 3 acres of property, and one of those acres is devoted to olives, which we planted about 12 years ago, and we've had, 5 or 6 years now where we've been able to make olive oil. So
that's cool.
A fun project.
Yeah, that's neat. Make your own olive oil. That's cool. So
so the olive oil is one of the only things that we do commercially, and we sell some walnuts also. But other than that, this is the homestead, and we both work off of the homestead also.
Yeah, I still work off the homestead for now, but I'm sure like most people that are pursuing this type of life, the plan is to eventually do the homestead full time, but it's just a process of gaining momentum until we can get to a spot where we really find a business that will pay for our mortgage and our needs and stuff.
I was going to say that was one of the questions that I asked pretty much every farmer in my book, was at what point did they stop their day jobs and be able to farm full time, or how did they do that?
Yeah, I like the Full Belly Farm story, how they were, for years, a few years, and one would telecommute to their job, the other would go in for a full-time job or whatever, and somebody had to have an income all the time to keep the dream going until they could finally transition.
Right. Yeah, and they have 4 partners. I think now they have 5 or 6 partners. They got some of the second generation who have come on as partners. But yeah, they've got a good group there working together, and currently no one has to work off the farm, so that's great.
Yeah, that is great. So what's one of the things that you really found valuable? What one of the takeaway lessons for you?
Yeah, one of the big takeaways was how much farming is an important part of our society, and how there's relationship to what the farmers are doing, and the people who are buying that food are benefiting by having this really healthy and local food, and also having choice. That I don't know, I just saw that, wow, with the big global food market, I feel like your choices are more limited. I mean, maybe you're getting things at any time of year from all over the place, but you're, I don't know, then you're beholden to that global economy, and something can go wrong in one part of the world, and you're not going to be able to get your, whatever it is, your
coffee.
rice or your cotton. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that my wife and I, when we started thinking about that, thinking more locally, is that, we really started to analyze whether buying bananas was a good option for us. Because we live a long ways away from where they grow bananas and avocados and things like that. I mean, but there are so many good things that we can grow up here and that are, just over the mountains. Because Yakima, Washington, you see the, Washington apple boxes. Most of the apples come from Yakima, and that's just over the mountain from us. So there's a lot of local produce that we have access to, that we don't have to worry about getting those exotic things that really aren't people before didn't really eat exotic fruits all the time. You could say that their quality of life was different than ours, but they also had, their diets were different. It was more local, and I think it was healthier that they were able to eat the stuff in the area that they lived. For one instance of that is honey. You get the honey that's been homogenized and pasteurized. It's from all over the place, and they even have from other countries the honey is put into this and made all into one color, and all equally useless. But if you can get local honey with the local allergens and the local pollen and that sort of stuff in there, that you will, it's healthier for you on all aspects of the
benefits.
Food. Yeah. So
that's a good example.
So do you have a favorite interview from your interviewing? I mean, this probably took you quite a while to put all these together.
Yeah, it was a couple of years in the making, and I don't know that I have a favorite interview. Let me see.
Yeah, if you only pick one, then other ones might get jealous.
One interview that I really enjoyed doing and I really enjoy sharing about is Spreadwing Farm, which is a permaculture homestead just up the road from me. And I've known Capay C.S.A.s, who's one of the main farmers there, since before she bought that land. I've seen, the whole progress of, Capay Valley and working at another farm and learning the ropes and then going on to start her own farm. And they are, just really living simply and, they're just working really hard to make this farm an amazing place. They're focusing on stone fruit, and they have so many, maybe like 30 or 40 different varieties of, peaches and plums and apricots. And they're really thinking ahead a lot in terms of how climate change might affect those different varieties. So they want to have a wide range.
Smart.
And
I'd say some things that might not grow well or fruit right now, like figs, might end up really doing well soon.
Right. It's amazing just how much things have changed in the last few years with climate change. So it's really great to see people who are thinking ahead about that. And then they also have their own protein supply with chickens, with eggs and meat, and then they have goats for meat and dairy. They make their own cheese. So it's a really great diversified farm that they're starting.
Well, so you mentioned at the beginning of your book that farming was magical. Do you still feel that way?
I do. It's just amazing to me that people can just, plant their seeds and work the land and have a crop that, sustains them and other people. The whole process was kind of a mystery. But I guess I have a little more insight view now to that mystery. That there's also a whole science, and I think most of the farmers that I talked to have really explored that as, learning about the science of what they're doing. There's always more to learn, and so they're constantly exploring new ways to either improve what they're doing or do something different.
Oh yeah, that's the key. It really is.
Yeah, a lot of problem solving all the time.
Oh yeah. Our most recent woofer, she was saying that she was kind of interested in how we can, if something doesn't work, then we change it and try to always stay ahead of the curve, so to speak. And that's kind of a challenge with the homestead, but it all works out eventually.
Yeah, there's some good stories of people rethinking what they were doing. I love the story, the first chapter of Blue Herons. They came into a really dilapidated orchard, and then they started growing walnuts and oranges, and at first they were just doing it conventionally, and then they started learning about organic farming and switched over to organic farming. So it's a great story from Blue Heron Farm.
Cool. Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. And just want to.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So the book is called Why We Farm by Elvira Dibrigit. So where can people find your book?
Yeah, so I have a website, which is whywefarmkk.com. And you can also find us on Facebook at Why We Farm, and Twitter at Why We Farm, and we have Instagram too. It's a little bit different name there.
Okay, so it sounds like you are easy to find.
Yeah, and the book is available on Amazon, but on my website there's a few other choices of where you can buy it.
Sure, you can get it in print, or you can get it on ebook or whatever.
I haven't actually made an ebook yet. That's next on the list.
Oh, okay. Well, right on then. So once again, thanks, Elvira, for coming on the podcast, and I wish you the best, and I'll get your information for everybody out there.
All right. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Once again, this has been the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. Thanks for listening.